Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the East Ascension Drainage District Number 1 Board of Commissioners meeting on March 11th here at the Gonzales Courthouse. Agenda item number 1, call to order. I am missing Mr. Arsenault, Mr. Turner, and I think Mr. Robert will be back. So, as far as invocation of the pledge, I would ask Mr. Oliver, please help us out.
Bow our head, dear Lord, bless this great country, bless this great state, bless this great parish. Dear Lord, bless all the members today to make the right decision for the parish. And dear Lord, bless all the armed force service members that give us the freedom we have today. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 3, public comments. If anyone would like to speak on any item on this agenda, please fill out a red or green card over at our secretary's desk and turn it in. Thank you. Agenda item number 4, acceptance of minutes. 4A, acceptance of the 2/11/2025 drainage meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Malonson, second by Mr. Varnado. Any questions? Any objection? Hearing none. Agenda item number 5, chairman's report or announcements. I don't have anything right now, guys. I appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item number 6, the drainage report. Mr. J.
The Chair, Drainage Board. So this is not really your average quarterly report. We're only 2 months into the year. Blaine reached out and he had me kind of prepare just a very short idea of where we're at, where we're getting most of our questions, where we're getting a lot of our work from, and some of the questions you guys get on why is my ditch not being dug yet, and what services do we offer, the capacity of what we can offer, and what we are doing about it. So I put something together very short for y'all to give y'all that idea where we're heading. We are forward-thinking this. So total by your drainage department, you can see where Minor East is your heavy loaded department, 917 work orders. I do believe, as I told Blaine earlier, this is a slightly skewed number. Reviewing the spreadsheets today, I found a lot of inaccuracies. They were assigned to different departments, different managers, former managers. Some of these things I looked back at 22, 23 were still active. They were jobs that were done. They were done back when the hurricane cleanups were done. So how skewed they are, I'm not sure, but I would certainly believe I have yellow highlighted and outlined at least 100 that I have questions right now about. A little further in here, you'll understand where I'm heading to kind of get that under control. Drainage work orders, you see our heavy loads are digging roadside ditches, off-road sinkholes, and off-road ditches. You can see the 256 number, the 212 to 196. Those jobs are usually very large jobs. They're not one-day jobs. They're not for hour jobs. So you're getting 40, 50 work orders a month on something that takes a week with basically 2 to 4 crews. Do the math, you're never going to keep up. So you really have to look at it and justify why are we going into this area. You have to look at the rating and say, is this a potential for life or harm or someone losing their house? So we're looking at the prioritizing. We're already doing it with culvert clean out. We're prioritizing our waterways already. We're working with GIS on that. We have apps now where this is mapped, it's prioritized, it's graded, it's being sent into a new work order system for us to respond to it. But what it does allow us to do is share with y'all that level 1 through 4 rating so that we can share that back with the residents and say, look, we see that you have an issue, but you have a 2 to 3 year out issue, not a today issue. This guy over here in this other district has a today issue. So this allows us to build on this parish. We have many, many miles of waterway, whether it's minor or major. It way outweighs the ranks of DPW. I can sure promise you that. This is your average monthly intake on new work orders. So you can see here in 24, you average 40 plus work orders a month. Go back to what I told you earlier. Each of you know just to lay a culvert in your front yard might take a day or two. They're gonna be back the second day to clean it up, so do the math on it versus the numbers. Get a storm comes through, shut this operation down for 2 months, even a year. We've been a year shut down since I've been here. That multiplied a lot of these numbers. It's very hard to catch up. So that's where you really, really go back to that prioritization system, so that you can serve your residents accordingly and allow for something to not happen catastrophic to their home. So these are our 5 oldest work orders, and as I was telling Blaine, where they're screwed here is I've got a 2022 here, remove a tree, and I went back and I have pictures of that tree removed. It just wasn't taken out of the system. I have another on hold in 22, wasn't taken out of the system. So this is corrections that has to be made. So I'm gonna back up a little and talk about this. We've worked with administration on adding to our DPW staff to minor drainage. We have also another position that will come up in administration of DPW, which we're classifying right now as a GIS analyst. That analyst will work as an analyst / business type manager. So that person will be oversight of the work order system, the daily reporting, the ensuring that these work orders are being established correctly, prioritized correctly, and being kept up with. But also advising daily where we're at and are we actually performing priority work. And that frees me up to do larger work, also keeps the staff at a level where they're not making decisions. We're making decisions by statistics and priorities, by inspections. Does that make sense? And I really feel like that's gonna be a huge benefit. That was the part of the waterway inspections that we put in place, part of the culvert inspections we put in place. We're just seeing the work order system kind of come into play. GIS is doing a great job developing it. We're responding to the inspections with the waterways right now. Our next step is to respond with the culverts. And then from there, they'll build into vegetation, drainage, and so on. But they're doing a great job with it. I don't want to spoil it. They may want to show that to you, and I don't think we're quite far enough, but it really works. So to give you an idea where we went, one of the inefficiencies that, go ahead.
Jade, yeah, can we break there for a second? Ms. Hill and Dave had
For all these work orders and all, how many more people do you think it would take to catch up more? And not always be
So you
behind?
won't, but a little later in my plan, you'll kind of get a little just of what we're going to do to help that.
More
it's-
people, or?
I'm sorry?
Is
It's
it-
absolutely more people.
Okay.
It's a small amount, but I think you're still going to really
So I
have
know
to
you'll never
understand
catch up.
prioritizing priority and looking at who's going to flood, who's not going to flood, what's the wants, what's the needs, and then also ownership of quadrants. And I think you can see a big turnaround here. When you forefront inspections versus allowing someone to come in and put a work order in and actually have a professional go out and inspect a roadway, inspect a outfall off of an off-road ditch, and know what it can and will do and how to service it, we can better prioritize our work. And we can ensure that that flooding doesn't happen.
You good?
Does that make sense?
I'm all for getting y'all more people if y'all need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a certain level. You've got to manage those people. It comes with a price tag.
Like Jade said, that office manager, GIS professional, as you can see, when you go through thousands of work orders, and we got 100 questions already, and he's not even done, we got to find out what the benchmark is currently. And so this person would have to do this basically 24/7, including monitoring GPSs and equipment, trucks, making sure that they're going out to the right locations, checking for efficiencies. And that frees up Jay to do some of the bigger items that he's tasked to do each and every day. So before we decide to hire more people, we need to really figure out inner office wise where exactly we're at. And that's what Jade's building, that administrative office, to determine exactly where we are before we say, let's go hire more people. Obviously, we know that maintenance is a seasonal thing, right? When we get into cutting season, our work orders skyrocket, and that's just natural. Ditch is growing up behind my house. When are y'all gonna cut it? So we gotta go and run through the cycle. So that's just a normal peak in those summer months. And then in January and December, we got those crews picking up trash because there is no grass to cut. It's all dead and it's not growing. So it's in the dormant season. So this addition is really gonna give us a better idea. We're gonna come back with a more accurate work order numbers because we find these occasionally. And you know, I called Jade and I said, well, why is this work order 2 years old? And he's like, well, that's been done. We did that 2 years ago. Now, they may have called again 2 years later, but some of these things. So we need that administrative person there that's savvy enough to do GIS, work with Brian's office, work with the work that Brenna's doing through GIS department, but also give Jade what he needs from an informational purpose of this is where we are today with work orders. Next week, this is where we are. These are some of the hot spots that I need to bring to your attention. And we're not there yet. He needs to build. His crews are great because that's what he's been focused on, getting jobs done. We need that administrative GIS guy because, I mean, Jade has to check GPSs. So he has to go check to see what they did during the day and making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? And you imagine how many employees we got in DPW and the task that takes, time it takes. So he's well beyond his 50 hours a week because he really doesn't have time. He works Saturdays and Sundays as well. But nonetheless, that's going to give us we got to come back with y'all with some accurate numbers of these work orders because there's too many question marks right now.
How long that would take to get that information?
We need to get this person hired, but you can't just hire anybody off the street.
Yeah.
You got to find that special person. It's like finding a drainage engineer. It's very difficult. And we've been hunting for a drainage engineer for years now. And we have yet to hire one with the right education and the right ability. So we should be able to find this person, but it's going to take some time. But that's what we need. Before we start hiring people, we need to get you an accurate work order number of where we're at and have that business manager running and doing the duties that Jay just simply doesn't have enough time because he's split 1,000 different ways every day doing everything under the sun. So that'll be the first step. Thanks.
Mr. Robert, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I've got two different topics on this subject we have. The first one, if we look back to the overtime that you always see me talking about, and I just push overtime so much because I mean in restaurant industries and convenience store industries and that type of service industry, you have a lot of seasonal type employees also. But the thing with overtime, if you can really balance it out to where you hire enough people in your busy season, you're paying time and a half for these people, and all that overtime's adding up to hundreds of hours of overtime. I mean, you hire more people, every 2 people you could have afforded an whole extra person, and that could be used and put out throughout the year. You have your different projects we could possibly diversify and go through the year. I think that's important. I'd like to see the overtime that is spent with all the grass cutting and everything with the formula of what you have, Clint, like you're saying, with what work orders you have left and don't have left and things like that. Maybe we don't ultimately need more employees across the board, or we don't need to spend more money on more employees. But I think I'm not saying it's going to be this way, but there is a possibility that we could be cheaper with more employees and less overtime. It's just something to look at. There's a lot of factors that would be included there to see what type of work. You'd have to have employees that could be cross-trained, that could do equipment, and they could also do your tractors. I mean, a lot of you people that do tractors can cut and excavate and do things like that in your winter months.
Yeah, so I kind of want to address that a little bit. So because it's seasonal, and there's a couple parameters, when we hire new people, that has a 40% cost associated with it, with benefits. We pay extreme benefits here because we don't pay a lot of money. So our benefits are really good. So let's just take 100,000 since it's a round number. So we pay someone 100,000. It really cost us 140,000. So with Trump passing the legislation and no taxes on overtime, this is a huge incentive for our employees to work a little extra time during cutting season because now they're not taxed on their overtime. This is take-home pay. It's hard to keep those guys around for $17 and $18, as you can imagine. They got families to feed, they got bills to pay, and you can imagine what it tries to make it on that. So when we go into these overtime scenarios, now, if we have emergencies or declarations, that's a whole different ballgame because they got to go man the pump stations, they got to go man the manual pumps, they got to go do all these things that require extra time, plus their daily duties if they have time. Usually they can't.
Now,
They're really just in an emergency.
Have we looked at, whenever you're talking about hiring people and getting these people cutting grass at $17, $18 an hour, I mean, if you take a step back and look at the economics of this situation, why don't we pay them more than $17, $18 an hour? You get more people coming in. You get better results for what you're going out there, and you pay less overtime.
We got to stay within budget.
If you want to keep, no, I agree. I'm
That's my
not telling to
job.
do any of this under budget or over budget. I'm saying if this falls under the numbers, it's worth looking at. I mean, if you need to spend $40,000 on every employee you hire, then contract out more labor. I mean, you can't just give away overtime because they deserve it. You give them a raise because they deserve it. That's how I would recommend doing that, and you balance your overtime.
Well, these are all
No,
things
the
we need to
second
look
part of
at
the
in a
second
very
question-
detailed fashion, but just throwing people at a problem has never been a solution for me. It has to be looked at in every single angle with the budgets that y'all approve, and we got to come to y'all to justify those things. And so we do play a lot of overtime due to the fact that we're in hurricane season and we just go into overtime. Grass cutting is a perfect example, and the council in the past have always been very supportive of paying our guys to work that Friday and Saturday and overtime, especially with good weather. And that's some extra pay for these guys that mean a lot to them.
I
So-
think it would mean a lot more if you gave them a raise.
Well, I appreciate
and you-
that.
Well, I
We really
appreciate that
gotta look
too, and
at it.
I'm speaking and I'm asking questions
Well, I know,
myself.
but you're interrupting me. Bill.
Well, you interrupted my questions because I
Go
was
ahead.
never
I'm
finished.
done.
Thank you.
Check.
I appreciate that, President, because I waited to be called on whenever you did. Yeah, I was called on. I was in the middle of my question.
All right, Mr. Rowe, we,
Is that correct, Chair? Did I wait till I was called
second,
on?
yeah, can we get to your
Thank you.
second question?
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Second question I have is the work orders. Looking at your list of your work orders on here, you have completed or you have on hold. What does it go by whenever you have a work order? When you show up, you look at it, decide it's not going to be done. Is that completed?
No.
Because
No, it's not
that's
completed.
the issue that I still have with different people, and I could list some projects offhand. I don't think we need to get to that unless you want me to. I can give you a few of them, of people that have had work orders in for years. They, I mean, one of them, two of them you've met me with, over there off of Wayne Floyd, and then Culvert over there off of Ernest Floyd. But they've put in the work orders, they've given me the numbers. It's never been resolved, but it's never in the system. So I don't know, I want to see those
I think we're
discrepancies.
referencing two different things, Mr. Robert, out of respect.
What's that?
That is an area of project, not an area of work order.
A culvert,
two
a
gentlemen
culvert is
could
a work
certainly-
order? Or a-
Certainly attest to that.
Yeah, that's
So
still a work order
It's
though,
not
right?
an individual situation over there.
But what if you have an individual work order for that? It's just closed out, clearly.
No, it's not closed out.
It's not?
Nope.
Okay, so we can see these work orders from the
Yeah.
individuals put there.
My office door is open every day,
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll come by and check it out.
absolutely.
But that was my biggest thing, and, I know we've had some issues within the past. So what was done to change that?
You're listening to it. You give us time to get to the end. That's all I'm asking. You're telling me about people, you haven't even let me get to the end of the mile. So listen to me. I've been sitting in that desk for 2 years. This man sat in this desk for years, and we've all trying to get it straight. And we're all looking forward to straightening this out and doing better things. But I'm gonna tell you, in 4 years, I've seen this parish grow. I've seen it do great things.
I couldn't agree with you
And we
more,
walk
Jay.
up
I
here
think
and we
y'all
don't
do
get
a, I think you
recognized
do a
by
wonderful
guys like
job.
you for it.
But
But
in
tonight,
this-
I'm gonna make you recognize me for it. Because those people you were asking for is in this report. But you failed to wait till the end to ask these kind of questions and start telling us how you would do it. And you have never been in our office. You've never been in our shoes.
Well, if it's in the report, I think you could have easily answered the question without sitting here and trying to berate me or whatever it is you're trying to do right now, Jade. I've respected you and I've gotten along with you from day one.
You started
I think
this,
you do a
Joel.
great, excuse me?
You started this. Let's not go
I
any
didn't
further
start
and be professional
anything.
and finish this.
Mr. Robert,
Please.
as a respect to the chair, I would ask that we mush to the end. Let's push to the end, and I'll give you the floor again.
No, I mean, I'm good. We'll just resolve this in private. I don't think this needs to be resolved
I agree.
on
Thank you.
television.
I
by any
appreciate it,
means.
Mr. Robert. Mr. Jade, floor is yours.
So anyway, guys, as I was saying, over the years with Ron, we've talked, we've looked, we've had many different ways we could address this. When you looked at minor drainage, you had 4 crews. You have 4 quadrants here. So if you actually split them up, you only have 1 crew in each quadrant. This group, what you're looking here is 8 groups, 8 crews. The red is the employee staff that President Quintmont has authorized for us to move forward hiring. That is what's in our budget. That's what we found. We didn't add money to it. We found it with hires that we didn't have, that we didn't need earlier in the years. Most of it's maintenance tech 2s, maintenance tech 1s, so it's laborers. So the problem we had was we go out to the job site, we didn't have enough flaggers. We might have had an operator, but we didn't have but 1 flagger. We'd have to rob a flagger off of another crew. That shuts that crew down. Might be too wet to get off road. We need to stay on road if we have all our crews. So many variables. And that's where you see me get a little worked up over this, because there is tons of variables. It changes daily. The weather, the staff showing up, the equipment being down, the type of equipment, whether or not we have servitude, how long it takes to get servitude, lots and lots of variables. Who this affects, how many people it affects, whether it's one individual, whether it's the whole street, the whole subdivision, the whole neighborhood. Does that make sense? Lots of variables. This here gives you your major drainage crew, which is an average of about 15 guys. They're in your tier 1, 10, tier 3 channels, working hard to get the water to the pump stations. These minor drainages are in your 3s and 4s, working to get them out of your neighborhoods to those main channels to get to your pump stations. So what this does, it guarantees each of you, at some point, you're gonna have 2 crews in your area. Does that make sense? Instead of having 2 crews on the east side and on the west side. Go ahead.
Excuse me, so you're gonna have 2 crews per district, total of 22 crews?
Per quadrant. So it's
Okay.
busted up in a quadrant,
Okay.
exactly like vegetation does it. So you'll have 2 crews per quadrant. Right now, you have 2 crews per east side, per west side.
Okay.
That's a huge
Sorry,
change.
Blaine.
You're doubling your staff. Also, go back and look at that photo right there. You've never seen an Ascension Parish truck with a piece of machinery on the back of a dump truck go straight to a job site and do a job. One of the biggest deficits that I've seen since I've been here is that crew sitting on that job site waiting on their equipment to get there, or going to the next job site the next day and waiting for them to go pick that equipment up and bring it to them. Also, safety, getting that equipment back into that site to where it's not sitting overnight, getting our batteries stole out of it, our windshields busted out of it. Now we've also downsized our fleet just a small amount. That's a 2025 4-door, large cab, 250 truck with a 21-foot trailer. We can haul our skid steer now instead of doing it with a B-class truck. We can put 4 crew members. You can put your 2 flaggers. You can put your maintenance tech 2, which is your grade tech. You can put an operator in there, and you can put your dump truck driver in that dump truck. And we're not driving 4 trucks to a site and waiting for someone to get there. We're showing up as a crew with purpose to do a job. I'm looking at less GPSs. I'm more accountable, I'm more efficient, and you guys have those guys in your quad somewhere, and they own it. We're creating ownership for these managers. These supervisors, which we took the names off the list for privacy reasons, but when you look up there, you've got a manager and you've got a supervisor over 2 crews. So you should not have one crew that doesn't have somebody able to supervise or check on them, making sure that we are efficient and we're getting work done. We don't have that right now. I have a guy in there doing reviews right now. His crew's out in the field. He's in his office doing reviews and there's no one to watch him, watch the crew, or help or assist. You trust, which we have to trust our employees. That's what we do. But this creates a lot of accountability across the board. A lot of accountability. And I think after, in my opinion, when I looked at the org chart and it didn't balance out and you had to add these positions to balance it out, this was all due to an employee coming to me that's been with the parish for almost 30 years saying, we don't have enough operators, Jade. That's what we mean, we don't have enough operators. We pull the org chart and we had too many operators. I said, what are you doing with these guys? What is their main function during the day? Because they was hired as an operator. Well, they're doing this because they're not a great operator. You didn't do your job. You didn't do your job. And you didn't balance it. You didn't know. Private business teaches you this. That's your roadmap to success. I believe in my heart, a year from now, when you look at the work orders, when this is introduced and you use these methods, that you will be able to use data to say where we can get, whether it takes 4 years, 5 years, or 10 years to service something. I'm not guaranteeing you we can service in 3 years. But I will guarantee you at some point we will be able to tell you how often we can. Ron's done a lot of modeling on that, and a lot of those models say we won't get to something for 10 years. This here adds the people to the equation along with all the hard work he's done to put this on the maps. Now we can take the maps, the people, the data, and actually bring it to reality. Can we cut that 10 down to 8 years? At least we know. Now we know. Do we introduce a vendor or contractor in to maybe do a small amount of off-road or on-road digging to offset that to 5 years versus hiring people? This is where your data starts. And I agree with Clint on that. It's where your data starts. You have to start somewhere. Guys, that's what I have to offer. I can't offer anything else. And if y'all looking for something else, I'm not your guy. But I have this to offer. Now, if I'm your guy, I'm willing to move forward. If I'm not your guy, tell me now. Because I'm not going to sit up here and put up with this. I won't put up with stuff like that.
3 questions. 3 questions.
Go ahead.
CDL drivers, at our rate that we pay, are we having trouble finding CDL drivers?
No, sir.
So no problem there.
In the last year, every operator I've had, 90% of them has been hired with an A. We also have a program where we send those operators to school, and the parish pays for them to upgrade from a B to an A, or even from a flat C to a B or to an A. We have many programs to develop our people. It is up to them to take advantage of that program. It really is up to that person.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
As far as you and I working together on a couple things, residential drainage cave-ins. You and I have been dealing with quite a few lately. Is that something that's, you're seeing parish-wide? I mean,
Yes,
is this the drainage was put in with the developer, and
Yes, sir.
now we're down the road and we're starting to see cave-ins from either improper installations or
Yeah.
separation or settlement or whatever that may be. Do you have any theory on, is it just poor installation from the beginning, or are we, we're in Louisiana and good luck with the soil, or?
Look, corrugated metal is going to last 20, 25 years. Everything we've seen is 20, 25 years old. I won't even go to poor installation because you can't see it
Sure.
because everything's rotten on the bottom side. The problem we do see, and me and Ron's talked a lot about it, is understanding our ordinance and what we accept in here. So nowadays, we may accept a subsurface drainage subdivision in that has concrete culverts, has updated plastic in it, and it is inspected and it belongs to us when it's all signed, sealed, and delivered. 25 years ago, we didn't have that. We had some subdivisions that were developed as open ditch subdivisions. They were taken into the parish as an open ditch subdivision. In order, I don't want to blame anybody, but I've heard different stories. In order to sell the lots, they may have came in after the fact, added the frontages. This is all for beautification and appearance. It actually is a negative effect on your drainage. We all know open ditches flow more water. But it does, it's beautification. What we're seeing now is that influx of older neighborhoods, the residents putting work orders in for sinkholes. But what we do offer is we offer to go out there, and if there's a minimum effect where it's a small patch or something we can assist with, we will do it. But there is an understanding. We bring the ordinance with us, and we explain to that resident, if we open up that hole, the bottom of that culvert is rotten, and it can't be closed back up. We have to return it to an open ditch by ordinance. That is where we get a lot of kickback, and we don't have a lot of understanding. That's something I'd like to see our residents maybe be educated on a little bit, because we would love to help them. We don't want to turn anybody down, but there is a limit to what we can do legally. The other is getting that hole open. Once it is open, we cannot close it back up for safety, so we would have to leave it an open ditch, haul that material off. If they want to keep their dirt, they can sign to keep their dirt, but we will haul the old culvert off and open it back up safely and put that drainage back in, so that it does flow and not flood anybody. But what I am seeing with some of the bigger projects, I have one neighborhood that's got 20-something work orders in. You're gonna go in and dig up the whole neighborhood, or you're gonna hit each resident at one time here and there when they decide they're gonna let you open it up. Now, they can come back on the backside. We offer opening it up. They can hire a contractor to come in, buy a permit, work with the parish, and they can put the frontage back in underneath their dime and then replant their grass on their own. That's part of their beautification, but we don't offer that.
Okay.
That is one of the largest we've seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I've noticed. That's why you and I have had that conversation quite a bit
Yes, sir.
lately, it seems like.
Does it appear that most of them are the metal culverts?
Yes, sir. Mostly metal. Every once in a while, we'll see a concrete that wasn't installed. Maybe they didn't put a lifting cup in it. That's what I was talking about, small fixes. We'll get in there, dig it. They'll put a new cup in it, remortar it, and we can cover it and smooth it back out for them. And that's a great service we offer for the community. We also have, just so y'all know, so some of what we brought to the table the last year, we own a camera now. We can send a camera inside the culverts to inspect them. So this year alone, we have probably, if you're looking for a savings of parish being responsible for something, we've had a dozen times now we've sent the camera in and verified we never had to dig. It was not a culvert issue. It may have been a water line that ran above the culvert. We've seen 3 instances in the last 3 weeks where we had boring through our pipe. We've had sewer boring, gas line boring. Any utility is prone to that type of, which damages your drainage pipe.
Did they pay you to get that fixed?
Sir,
Can you go after them to get reimbursement for that?
I haven't ever went that far.
I was just
That would
curious.
have to be an administration question. Maybe Ron may actually be able to answer that one. The last one I did, we were able to get the sewer company out there to make the repair, because we already had it open. And they made the repair then, and it kind of worked out for both, so we didn't have to go into the litigation. Yeah.
All right, last one. I'll let you go after that, or at least from my end. Yeah, I got a list right now. I'm working down the line. February this year, you got 67 new work orders, which is quite high. If you look at the other 4 years, you're probably averaging 40 to 45. Is there a reason, spike, anything we know?
I didn't get to the trend.
Okay.
Trend
It's just,
yet, no.
it seems crazy, right? Like 67 in 1 month
Yeah.
on a non-growing season month.
Yep.
Seems to be wild. Okay. I
We
didn't know
get
if there
'em,
was an
you'll,
underlying reason for that or not.
You'll see it I see it mostly in vegetation. When you start turning, the sun starts shining, the little yellow weed flowers start popping up.
Yep.
We start putting work orders in. Remind y'all, that's when we start our mowing cycles. So we're 3 weeks into state highways right now. We're south of 44, we've cut 22, we're on 30 right now. We have all quadrants right now, 1 week into the mowing cycle. All of our equipment's up and running, and, you know, we're solid across the board at the moment. Rode around DPW in the back today to get an idea of spares, because I have kept a few spare units instead of surplusing. It's very easy. 1 week, you can knock 3 windshields out of a tractor, and you're shut down. And that shuts the whole crew down, and it happens. So we have spares up and ready. I think the number 3 is what we have in the shop with some older units that's being repaired for backup. So we're looking forward to a really good year in vegetation, because all of those guys have made at least a year with us, and we have some seasoned guys on the back end. But bear in mind, we'll watch the work orders on it. We like and ask for a little patience on rotation. If we're getting off a rotation and we're hitting a fire just because they think they need their grass cut, it's gonna affect the whole, you're not changing anything at the end of the day. At the end of the year, we're gonna cut X amount of miles, and that's what we're gonna cut. So, it's just fair to get that cycle through so we can get to that second cycle and give everybody service. But the more we travel without mowing grass to put fires out, the less grass we're cutting. So that's something I ask the residents to be a little patient with. There's always someone first and always somebody last. It's just the way it works.
All right, I've got Mr. Varnado and then Mr. Robert. Mr. Varnado, go ahead.
I just want to say I appreciate what in the crap y'all do every day. I know a 5-day work week, you only got 260 days on average a year, you know, with the number of work orders you got coming in. So I certainly am keen on that you're never going to get caught up. And me calling you is not to rush you in anything whenever I make a phone call to you guys. I think communication on our end, what I've got in my district in a little short year that I've been here, I think communication is what people say is lacking. And on our part too, on the council members, we have to stay accountable as well, communicating with our constituents when they call us. And I think over the last couple of years, that kind of, specifically in my district, they got a lot of complaints with that. So it is 100% not all on y'all, and I will not operate that way moving forward, and I have not operated that way. When I call, it's just, you know, just to get an update or get answers. You know, that's, but the prioritization system, do we have that put in place? I know me and you spoke about it out on the site. Are we implementing that? Are we fixing to, or?
We're in the process.
Because it's
It's a little timely because we started with waterways, culverts. Now we're moving into vegetation. We really want to be able to show you on a map every month when we come how much grass we've cut.
so
and
what
where we priorities. So before we get into drainage, we're going to finish vegetation.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into drainage. But look, the base model's there. GIS has done a wonderful job with the base model. So it's, they're working very, very quick. So I could see it in the very near future.
Yeah, because like me and you spoke, it's, you know, you go to a hospital and they prioritize folks whenever they come in with a gunshot. You're sitting in a waiting room and a gunshot person wheels in, and if you got there first, you know, just being sick, obviously they're going to take the gunshot patient first. So, and y'all are operating that way. I was just curious about the implementation of it in-house on how y'all going to handle that. I was just curious. And from an administrative standpoint, is there, I think we had discussed this before, and I don't know how much input we can or can't at this point, but whenever we see preliminary plots come across the planning commission and in-house, I think you know, the Eric Poches of the world and Lance and whatnot, whoever else is involved in the early stage of these preliminary plots, I've had situations in my district in the past year that I've noticed that the parish can't get to the servitudes just by, not because there's fences there. A lot of times that is the case. People build over the servitude and whatnot, which I think we've kind of handled that in the case, but there are situations where the actual subdivision design, it makes that almost impossible for those things to be done as well. So I think we should be looking at the overall, again, I don't know how much input we can or can't have at that point, but, I think that's something we should look at, because I know certainly in a lot of people's districts, the other people, if I'm having it in mind, I'm assuming other districts is probably having that issue as well. So just something to look at. Again, not your fault at all. Just something in-house I think we could look at. What percentage of drainage ditches do we outsource as far as third-party companies? I don't, huh?
At this time, none.
None?
In the past,
Yeah, we've done it in the past. I know, we just hadn't been doing it recently.
Done some, but
Because sometimes that's a monetary thing that's better than hiring folks, because you got that 40% and that's a long-term, no matter, their own staff, no matter what, in slow season and whatnot. So outsourcing,
Yeah,
I know other parishes do it a pretty good bit.
We have the Lifehouse, obviously. The hardest ditches to cut are the ones we don't have access to because of prior subdivisions that have been approved with that no access. And so you gotta send guys in there on foot with blades and different handheld things to cut that vegetation. And it's very cumbersome and very, labor intensive. So we do have Lifehouse for that. We use them a lot. And we'll peak them up in peak season, in order to get some of those ditches cut and then sprayed. Oftentimes the clients or the citizens don't want their ditches sprayed. So we got to cut them. 3 months later, it's back just like it was in the growing season. So it's challenging. We don't tell them we have to spray it. But we get a lot of people who say, please don't spray my backyard or whatever, due to chickens or whatever the reason. There's 100 different reasons why they ask us not to. But that's extra work for us. That's hand cutting a ditch maybe 2 to 3 times a year. And that's difficult. That's labor intensive. So we do what we can.
And I didn't look at it beforehand, but how many work orders do we typically average a year, since you've been here? I'm just curious.
about 700 from what,
So about 4-year backlog, roughly.
yeah, it doesn't take long to get it really out of whack. That's why, like I said, I think the prioritizing is really, to me, the only common sense way to go.
Yeah.
Turn the pumps on in a rain event at Marvin Bro and get 4 or 5 inches of rain in 4 or 5 hours, and you didn't flood. You've done well. You've done very well. I haven't seen that in years. I've seen us do very good. Very good.
Yeah. Well,
So I look at the work orders and I say, let's justify really what these ditches are about. Let's prioritize them, because we can do it. So we haven't taken out homes. I'm sorry. Yeah, we haven't been flooding any homes, and we haven't had a lot of the street flooding that we've had before. So we've made a huge impact. So I really think it'll be beneficial.
And do we have I think you said we do, but is there a way that individuals or council members or just the public as a whole can track work orders by district? Is that something in the system that we have to request internally in order for that, or is that something that, if you want to, check the district by district, is that something that we have the capabilities to do?
We
If
can,
requested.
we have a mapping that we can track, but I don't believe it's available to the public. On request, it could be available to one of you guys, pretty much at a fingertip. I would hope in our new system, it is GIS based, so it is immediate, it's on the fly. The minute you do something in it, it's live. I would really hope and think that they're leaning that way. It just gives us a whole lot more development versus what we have now. We're really limited with what we have.
And one last thing. You touched on open ditches is kind of has its pluses and minuses. I mean, we currently don't allow open ditches and whatnot because of the long-term maintenance, the non-beautification. But I know some other parishes is moving, to stuff like that, but because you have more potential for capacity. It's more maintenance costs on the long-term for us, but it also is really good for drainage because specifically, again, my district, we've got some, and again, I know some other folks the same way, but the closed ditch system is a very, it's good for the maintenance long-term, but I think once something happens, there is a big slowdown in the maintenance of that. There's, you got to run cameras. We only got one camera truck, and so I think, this council needs to weigh in the future, and the administration as well, to really the cost benefits of open ditches versus closed, because when something does happen on a closed ditch system and you got to get in there and tear somebody's front yard up, it's not something that comes fast and very easily, and it's not very easily diagnosable either, versus open ditches. A lot easier to diagnose the situations and the problems. Granted, a lot of residents don't want open ditches and whatnot, but it's still a conversation I think that we should have, for sure. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Robert.
Yeah, as far as, through the parish and how the work order system works, and since we're going to be comparing all the costs and different things, there's a specific area where some work was done, and a little before Thanksgiving, I want to say October or so. It was right over there by Ricky Compton's off of Norwood Road. I forget the name of the road. But in a particular instance like that, where you had your whole crew, mobilized, brought out there, they worked for 3 days, then mobilized and brought back, and you find out that that was work done on private property. How is that going to be budgeted? How is that shown in the budget? How is that work order resolved? And how should we move forward?
I'd have to refer to legal on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Bless.
All right, anyone else have questions? We're all good. We will move on. Agenda item number 7A.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jade. Approval of proposed task order from Hartman Engineering in the amount not to exceed $300,000 for miscellaneous drainage evaluations and drainage engineering consulting services.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Lawson, second, Mr. Varnado. Any questions? One question, Mr. Varnado.
I think this is more administration. I didn't have it in front. I think we passed something, was it November, where there was the committee went with I don't know, a number of engineering firms for this or something, and it's not just Hartman on this
Correct.
order or something?
It's multiple firms, and all of those contracts ended, I believe, in December. And we're kind of in a transition into the new contracts, and that's what this task order is.
So y'all are taking over more of the workload versus the other 14 firms?
No, they do our culvert sizing and stuff. That is just routine, all the time stuff. So let's say we got a resident call and saying it's an undersized culvert and it doesn't match them all. Well, they all have to be sized, especially if we got to look at that. And those are the services. The concrete lining, those would be the services. Or everyday stuff that we do. We use the 14 firms for specific projects, whether it be a mini station or a DOTD floodplain clearing of Wards Creek or Henderson Bayou. They're going to do that engineering, those 14 firms.
Whatever they're
This is,
capable of handling,
we don't,
basically.
as I mentioned earlier, we can't find an engineer to hire on drainage. We've tried for years. So we have to use Jared to fill that void until that day comes where we find someone we can hire. The engineer shortage for drainage out there is just nationwide, and we have to use Jared for those everyday services when we got to get those culverts sized and ditches measured and all those calculations.
So they work with, you guys work with I know we got one culverting person,
Stephen Bellello will do
And
that.
so y'all
then,
work-
yeah,
I work
and
directly
you'll work
with
with Stephen directly.
culverting
That's
permits and
correct.
all that kind of stuff, and,
Yep. So we're,
gotcha.
you know, it kind of encompasses all your day-to-day activities, including on the development side. So I sit in with the ERA and, you know, all the new commercial developments, residential. So we're kind of on the front end, you know, hopefully correcting all the past sins. So, you know, move Ascension projects, bulkheads, culvert designs.
Yeah, you don't have to, I was just curious about, like, I don't think the other members, I didn't realize it till today, that actually, that it's something from November that just, I was just curious. That's all I got.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I've got a motion from Mr. Maloney, second Mr. Vornado. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none. Okay, agenda item 7B. Approval for EA Drainage District Number 1 to expropriate drainage servitude for 3 addresses near Moran subdivision. Parcel number 1836000, parcel number 1607200, parcel number 1944000.
A motion for each one, or no?
I don't believe, I think I can go, that's right, I can do all at the same time. I don't need a motion for each, correct? Yeah, no problem, okay. I have a motion from Mr. Hillingsback, a second from Mr. Joseph, but I have a question by Mr. Maloney.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Robert.
Yes.
All right, so that's a scary word, expropriate. So before I hop on this wagon, can you give us a little background?
So if you will, John Paul, I will. So this is
Mr.
Oliver's, yeah, this is Oliver's district. We had everybody in Moran subdivision sign except for these 3. And so we have servitudes through the entire subdivision, which didn't require servitudes when it was originally, because Moran subdivision was done. So we worked with Oliver, kept him updated on the progress, and we've signed, I mean, it's well in the 20s, back of everybody's yard. So we have these gaps in there. Now, these people may be not living there, they may be out of state, or just maybe one was not willing to sign. And so, and for us to have that continuity across that tire back ditch, we have to expropriate. So we have offered them, worked with them, called them. We have done absolutely everything we can possibly do. And these are the 3 that are left in the entire subdivision, for whatever those reasons are, haven't signed. And so we have no ability other than expropriate at this point to get those servitudes in place. So we can just do regular maintenance.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of, you know, we're talking 10, 15 foot on back to property, or like, or, so
Yes.
it's,
So on each side, sometimes 7.5 on each side, which
right, so we're not
encompasses-
talking about taking a half acre from these
No,
folks?
this is
or-
not a major project by
Like,
no
and
means.
this is to help
This
the
is-
community, the area?
The majority of the subdivision is Oliver, because they reached out to us with these problems. They showed up at our drainage meeting and complained. And what happened was, it was all private. And obviously, we can't do
Okay.
our work on that private
Right.
property. So we began to get servitudes. These are the last 3 that we have to get in the entire subdivision. And we'll have everything we need to do the ditches completely.
And it may be short of a actual expropriation. The drainage district has the right to go in and remove the waters within the district. And so I would just ask the court to allow us access and servitude for this specific purpose here. So we don't have to necessarily go through the whole expropriation process, even though you have that right under the drainage district. It may be something kind of in between.
Okay.
Quick petition to the court and for access to get it moving.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Vornado.
I just got a quick question to Oliver, maybe the administration. How can we get the lighting district to pay for this? Motion.
All right, you're out. You're out. Vornado's out.
Motion.
So I have a motion from Mr., I'm sorry, Mr. Oche. You- All right,
No, just to go with Chase on this,
Mr. Balls.
Chase. We don't want to go down that alley. we have a major project going on in that area that we're gonna build the pond and everything for that water pumping station. And this directly affect this community. And it's been over a year since we've been fighting for this. And, once again, me and the attorney talk, we have no other choice. Their community need drainage bad. So, I'll make the motion to approve it.
I have one question before we get rolling. Mr. Robert, you did mention about a petition or whatever, but knowing the fact that what Mr. Joseph stated, that this will be a continual project, we'll have to maintain it. Just an opinion on my side, I think expropriation is the way to go here, because we're gonna have to go back. Would we have to petition again to maintain that in 5 years or 6 years? Or would it be a thing where we've always got permission because of the waters?
So I may be able to get in there quick and to get the current project going and then take a longer time on the expropriation so that we get permanent.
Okay.
But for now, we're gonna get in there and get done what we need to get done.
Okay, because that's my biggest question is, obviously, we talk about it, it's the maintenance, right? We do the project, that's great, 10 years from now, we need to maintain it, or 5 years sometimes, so. Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Hillingsbeck, a second from Mr. Joseph. Any other questions? Any objections? Hearing none.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Lawson. Second, Mr. Hillingsbeck. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none. We are adjourned.